In the heart of a bustling city, there existed a decrepit apartment building known as Haven Heights. Its once grand facade was now stained with years of neglect, its windows grimy, and its corridors echoing with the whispers of forgotten souls. Few dared to dwell within its walls, but for those desperate enough to seek refuge, it offered a roof, albeit one shrouded in shadows and secrets. It was into this dismal abode that Claire ventured, her pockets empty and her hopes dashed by a string of misfortunes. With no other options left, she accepted the only available room on the third floor, despite the warnings of the building's ominous reputation. The first few nights passed without incident. Claire's sleep was fitful, disturbed by the creaks and groans of the ancient structure. But as the days turned into weeks, she began to notice peculiarities that sent shivers down her spine. It started with faint noises in the dead of night, a soft scratching at her door, whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. At first, Claire dismissed them as figments of her imagination, the byproduct of her frazzled nerves. But as the disturbances grew more frequent, she could no longer deny their existence. One evening, while preparing dinner in her cramped kitchen, Claire felt a cold draft sweep through the room, extinguishing the flames of her stove. Startled, she glanced around, but saw nothing amiss. Brushing it off as a draft from the aged windows, she relit the burner and resumed her cooking. But the chill persisted, wrapping around her like an icy shroud. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes boring into her very soul. With a nervous laugh, she chastised herself for succumbing to paranoia and vowed to put an end to her unease. That night, as Claire lay in bed, she was jolted awake by a sound that froze the blood in her veins, a low guttural moan that seemed to reverberate from the walls themselves. Trembling, she reached for the bedside lamp, but her fingers found only empty air. The room was engulfed in darkness, the shadows dancing ominously in the moonlight that filtered through the window. Heart pounding, Claire fumbled for her phone, the only source of light in the oppressive blackness. With trembling hands, she illuminated the room, but what she saw made her blood run cold. There, standing at the foot of her bed, was a figure cloaked in darkness, a silhouette devoid of features, save for two piercing orbs that gleamed with malevolence. Claire's scream died in her throat as the entity advanced, its form shifting and undulating like smoke in the wind. Desperate, Claire reached for the door, but found it locked tight, as if bound by an unseen force. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she was trapped at the mercy of whatever horror lurked within the confines of her room. As the entity drew closer, its presence suffocating, Claire's mind reeled with fear. She had heard tales of malevolent spirits that haunted the corridors of Haven Heights, but she had never believed them until now. And now, it seemed, she was destined to become another victim of its insatiable hunger. But just as the entity loomed over her, ready to claim her soul, a voice pierced the darkness, a voice that echoed with a strange familiarity. "Claire," it whispered, its tone both plaintive and haunting. "Help me." Confusion warred with terror as Claire strained to locate the source of the voice. And then, she saw it. A trapdoor hidden beneath a tattered rug, its edges worn with age. With trembling hands, she pried it open, revealing a hidden chamber below. What she found there defied comprehension. A room bathed in an ethereal glow, its walls adorned with symbols and sigils of a forgotten era. And at its center lay a figure, shrouded in darkness, yet radiating with a palpable aura of despair. It was then that Claire realized the truth. The entity that haunted her was not a malevolent spirit, but a tormented soul trapped between worlds, yearning for release. With a newfound resolve, she reached out to the figure, her touch breaking the chains of its imprisonment. As the room dissolved into light, Claire felt a sense of peace wash over her, a peace born from the knowledge that she had helped a lost soul find its way home. And though Haven Heights would forever be haunted by its dark past, Claire knew that she had faced its horrors and emerged victorious, her courage shining brighter than any darkness that dared to assail her. In the heart of a quaint suburban neighborhood, there stood a charming house with a history as rich as it was mysterious. It was here that Emily found herself, eager to start anew after a bitter divorce left her shattered and adrift. The house seemed like a sanctuary, a place where she could leave her past behind and embrace a future filled with hope. But as Emily settled into her new home, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It started with small things, a misplaced item here, a flickering light there. At first, she dismissed them as the quirks of an old house, but as the days passed, the disturbances grew more pronounced. One evening, while unpacking boxes in her bedroom, Emily caught sight of her reflection in the antique mirror that hung on the wall. But instead of her own familiar face, she saw something altogether different, a grotesque visage that seemed to leer at her with malevolent intent. Shaken, Emily blinked, expecting the illusion to fade. But when she looked again, the image remained, twisted and distorted beyond recognition. With a shiver of unease, she turned away, vowing to rid herself of the cursed mirror at the earliest opportunity. But try as she might, Emily could not escape the mirror's sinister influence. Night after night, she would catch glimpses of movement in its polished surface, a shadowy figure that seemed to lurk just beyond her line of sight. And with each passing day, the feeling of being watched grew more intense, until Emily could scarcely bear to be alone in her own home. Desperate for answers, Emily turned to the house's previous owner, a reclusive old man who had lived there for decades before mysteriously disappearing without a trace. He had always been an enigmatic figure, known for his eccentricities and peculiar habits. But Emily was willing to overlook his quirks if it meant uncovering the truth behind the mirror's malevolent presence. With trepidation, Emily ventured into the old man's study, a room that had remained untouched since his departure. Dust coated every surface, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. But amidst the clutter, Emily found a journal, an ancient tome filled with the ramblings of a mind teetering on the brink of madness. As she pored over its pages, Emily felt a chill run down her spine. The old man had been obsessed with the mirror, convinced that it held the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. But the more he delved into its mysteries, the more he became convinced that it was a portal to a realm beyond human comprehension, a realm inhabited by beings of unfathomable darkness. Terrified yet determined, Emily resolved to confront the mirror once and for all. Armed with the knowledge gleaned from the old man's journal, she stood before its twisted surface, her heart pounding with fear and anticipation. With a trembling hand, Emily reached out to touch the mirror, her fingers grazing its cool surface, and as she did, she felt a surge of power course through her, a power born from the depths of the unknown. In that moment, Emily understood the true nature of the mirror. It was not a mere reflection of reality, but a gateway to a realm of nightmares. And as she gazed into its depths, she saw the faces of those who had been consumed by its darkness, a legion of lost souls trapped for eternity in a prison of glass. With a cry of defiance, Emily shattered the mirror, its fractured shards scattering like fallen stars. And as the last vestiges of its malevolence faded into nothingness, she felt a sense of peace wash over her, a peace born from the knowledge that she had conquered her fears and emerged victorious. As she surveyed the wreckage of the mirror, Emily knew that she had faced her demons and emerged stronger for it. And though the scars of her ordeal would linger, she was determined to embrace the future with courage and resilience, knowing that she was no longer bound by the shadows of the past.
In a sleepy rural town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there stood a quaint cottage that had long been abandoned. Its weathered exterior bore the scars of time, its windows boarded up and its doors sealed shut. Legend had it that the cottage was cursed, its walls haunted by the restless spirits of those who had met untimely ends within its confines. It was into this cursed abode that Sarah unwittingly stumbled one stormy night. Lost and disoriented, she sought refuge from the relentless downpour that lashed at her weary frame. With no other shelter in sight, she pushed open the creaking door and stepped into the darkness beyond. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and Sarah shivered as she surveyed her surroundings. Cobwebs clung to the corners of the room, and the floorboards groaned beneath her weight. But despite the desolation that surrounded her, Sarah felt a strange sense of calm wash over her, a feeling that she was not alone in the darkness. As she explored the cottage further, Sarah's unease grew with each passing moment. Shadows danced along the walls, their movements erratic and unpredictable. And in the corner of her eye, she caught fleeting glimpses of figures that seemed to materialize out of thin air, only to vanish into the darkness once more. Determined to uncover the truth behind the cottage's sinister reputation, Sarah delved deeper into its mysteries. She searched every nook and cranny, her heart pounding with fear and anticipation, and then, in the depths of the cellar, she made a discovery that would change her life forever. There, hidden beneath a tattered blanket, lay the skeletal remains of a long-forgotten inhabitant, a victim of the curse that had plagued the cottage for centuries. With a gasp of horror, Sarah realized the truth. The spirits that haunted the cottage were not mere apparitions, but vengeful souls trapped between worlds, yearning for release. Driven by compassion and a sense of duty, Sarah vowed to help the lost souls find peace. Armed with little more than her wits and determination, she set out to unravel the mystery of the curse and put an end to its malevolent influence once and for all. But the spirits were not so easily appeased. As Sarah delved deeper into the cottage's dark past, she became ensnared in a web of deceit and betrayal that threatened to consume her very soul. And with each revelation, she found herself drawn ever closer to the heart of the curse, a force so powerful and ancient that it defied comprehension. As the storm raged outside, Sarah confronted the source of the curse, a malevolent entity that had long ago made a pact with the forces of darkness. With every fiber of her being, she fought against the darkness that threatened to engulf her, her courage shining like a beacon in the night. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the curse was broken, the malevolent entity banished to the depths of the abyss, its power shattered by Sarah's indomitable will. As the storm subsided and the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, Sarah emerged from the cottage, her spirit battered but unbroken. With the curse lifted, the cottage stood silent and still once more, its haunted halls now empty of the restless souls that had once dwelled within. And as Sarah walked away, she knew that she had faced her fears and emerged victorious, a testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of unspeakable darkness.